It's time for business with Kate Moody, and we're looking, Kate, this evening in particular at a gloomy Eurozone report, aren't we?
Yeah, we've heard a lot of rather pessimistic data recently. The European Central Bank's latest policy was really no different. It once again downgraded its growth forecast for 2019 from 1.7 to 1.1% for the bloc. It confirmed it would be keeping interest rates on hold at record lows at least until next year. Perhaps the most telling decision was the announcement of a third round of targeted longer-term refinancing operations. That's quite a mouthful, but it means effectively cheap loans to banks across the Eurozone. It was previously done in 2016 and 2017. The idea is to encourage banks to lend more money to households and businesses. Now, it's a form of stimulus that underscores just how worried the ECB really is about the Eurozone's future, just a few months after it wound down a massive bond-buying program. ECB President Mario Draghi singled out protectionism and trade tensions as key risk factors.
A cross-check of the outcome of economic analysis with the signals coming from the monetary analysis confirmed that an ample degree of monetary accommodation is still necessary for the continued sustained convergence of inflation to levels that are below but close to 2% over the medium term.
Earlier, I asked Naaem Aslam, chief markets analyst at Think Markets, whether he was surprised by the scale and timing of the ECB's move.
I think the market was taken by surprise, and whenever the lawmakers play against the odds, the kind of a reaction that we have seen the entire tantrum for the euro-dollar pair, it is very normal with that aspect. But I think with the ECB coming out of the gate and being fret about the weakness in the Eurozone's economy, the only thing that they wanted to do is they wanted to shore up the economic growth in the Eurozone. So for the time being, I think ECB has decided that this is the most adequate step for them to go and then announce the TLTROs. So, the initial reaction was pretty positive because it was a pure textbook trade, where you see that, okay, euro is dropping, but then the equity market is rallying. But as you started to, talk about that, how concerned the ECB is about the growth, I think that just, it was at that particular moment that traders decided to take their profits off the table.
Now, currency markets reacted swiftly. We saw the euro dropping to its lowest level in 4 months, trading at about 1.12 to the dollar. You can see the current figures there. It's also down against the British pound. The downbeat forecast also weighed on the stock markets. We saw losses of about between 4 and 0.6% for the major European indices. Banking stocks lost about 2% across the board in Europe. Wall Street's been following that negative trend and really accelerating its losses in the last hour or so of trading. The Dow Jones down about 250 points. The Nasdaq nearly 1.5% as U.S. stocks head for their fourth consecutive session in the red. Huawei has filed a lawsuit accusing the U.S. government of acting illegally by banning the purchase of its equipment by federal agencies. It's part of the Chinese tech giant's efforts to mount a public defense against American accusations that it could pass sensitive information to Beijing. Catherine Viette reports.
Going on the offensive, Huawei is suing the U.S. government. The Chinese tech giant is challenging a law that bans federal agencies from buying its equipment and services, saying it's unconstitutional.
The U.S. Congress has repeatedly failed to produce any evidence to support its restrictions on Huawei products.
The global rollout of the 5G cellular network and its hundreds of billions of dollars worth of contracts are at the heart of the battle. As the world's largest maker of telecommunications equipment, Huawei wants a big piece of that pie. But the U.S. has labeled the company a security risk over fears it's been spying for the Chinese government, and U.S. officials have been lobbying to shut it out of next-generation networks, allegations that have been dismissed by Huawei's chairman.
The U.S. government is sparing no effort to smear the company and mislead the public about Huawei.
Other governments, including Australia and New Zealand, have joined the U.S. in blocking the use of Huawei gear in the new networks over security worries. It's not the first courtroom battle between the U.S. and Huawei. In January, the tech firm pleaded not guilty to trade theft charges. The U.S. has also filed charges against the company's CFO, Meng Wanzhou, accusing her of violating U.S. sanctions against Iran. Her arrest in Canada sparked a diplomatic crisis amid accusations of political payback.
General Motors has stopped production at the first of 5 North American factories slated for closure. Workers at the assembly plant near Youngstown, Ohio, held a rally earlier in the week expressing concerns about their future. The site had been active for over 50 years and employed 1,700 people. GM announced in November it would cut up to 14,000 jobs across North America as part of a restructuring plan, prompting criticism from Donald Trump, who's tried to boost manufacturing in the Midwest. As the countdown to Britain's scheduled withdrawal from the EU approaches, Spain's agriculture sector is increasingly worried about its future and, in particular, exports. Luke Trego explains.
Across Almeria, a sea of glass and plastic, greenhouses under the Spanish sun that produce fruit and vegetables for much of northern Europe. After Germany and France, the UK has been the southeastern province's third largest market, at least until now.
We have to work taking into account the possibility that the UK will become a third country. It'd be like exporting to China, Japan or Australia, and it would be a very difficult situation. Above all, because the volumes exported are very high, and now there's so much uncertainty about what's going to happen.
With no deal still a possibility less than a month before the UK is due to leave the EU, customs inspections snapping into effect could slow exports to a crawl and leave produce rotting on trucks, not to mention increased import duties which would push up prices. Moreover, the British government's likely to support its own agriculture sector over others, which raises the question for Spanish farmers: how are they going to fill a €274 million hole the loss of the UK market would represent?
All the German market and East market and Italy and France, the normal suppliers, they are not going to lose this market. It means that the problem is the Spanish suppliers that are selling to England, they have to look for the new markets and to occupy the space of the other exporters, and it's not easy.
In a little under a month, there could be another sea in the southeastern Spanish province, one making up a glut of produce with nowhere for it to go.
There we go. Just over 3 weeks to go till that scheduled deadline. Still an awful lot of questions, James.
Absolutely. Clock ticking down on that. Thanks for the business update, Kate Moody. A quick break for the weather, and we'll be back with the rest of the news at 9:30 Paris time.